Okay, we are live. Wonderful. We're going to talk about food today. Um, Eat, EAT, Lancet report, the Eat Planetary Diet Guidelines. If you go to the World Economic Forum or any of these events where rich people come in with their in their private jets and their bought and corrupt politicians are also there. They will be talking about this diet, and it's there is actually like this Norwegian woman who was the wife of a Norwegian. Is he a billionaire? I don't know. At least multi-millionaire uh, property developer or something like that, hotels and stuff. Well, but anyway, she is quite high up in the ranks there. And this diet is what's being pushed. And this is how our fine leaders want us to eat. Now, I have some knowledge about diet. I have some actual education in diet, and I have decades of experience with diets as a powerlifter, drug-free powerlifter, I may add, and also a powerlifter coach. Um, and I did write in the title here, the Eat Planetary Diet Will Kill You. And I do realize that this video will get either demonetized or taken down. But I just wanted to bring attention to the dangers here. Now, what I'm going to say, a lot of it is common sense, but common sense ain't that common, you know? And what we see here is that they are suggesting a diet that will lead to almost automatically for most people a huge amount of serious illnesses that will dramatically reduce your quality of life. And some say that that's the whole plan, that's the whole idea, because who's behind this, who is funding this so-called research? Well, big pharma. So, and yeah, that's actually true. And people can go and follow the money if they want to, or they can just deny it. By the way, KP Heathen, good to see you. Diablo Blanca, Angela, Green Eyed Lady, Red Wolf Moon, Jamie, and everyone here. Good to see you all. So, what is this diet about? Well, if you didn't know, I have an article here. I've read several articles now, and you are supposed to eat mostly grains. So the seeds of plants, straws. If you see a straw out in the field, it will have some seeds. That's basically grain. That's grains, right? That's what we're supposed to eat. That's where we are supposed to get the most of our calories. We're also supposed to use a lot of unsaturated fat. And that sounds great because saturated sounds a little bit bad, right? But unsaturated fats are seed oils. And seed oils are cancerous when they are subjected to heat. And they use different methods to extract all of the oil out of the seeds. Sometimes they use acetone, like acetone, and they also heat it up a lot. And if you cook in seed oils, like uh, um, you put seed oils in your frying pan when you're going to fry up some food there. That process makes the seed oil highly cancerous, right? Seed oils in themselves have also been shown by proper science to increase inflammation in your body. So that's a problem, obviously. Grains, especially especially a diet with high fiber content, it actually seems to damage the insides of your intestines, which again leads to leaky gut syndrome, which again lets plant toxins into your bloodstream, which again leads to several autoimmune illnesses. And when I'm saying this, it's like I'm just, this is something that we know. We shouldn't discuss this anymore because this is well established science. And if people want to write in the comments, oh, where's the science sources? Go and find the fucking sources yourself. I'm not your dad, so you can do that yourself. And not speaking to you wonderful people here, of course, but you know what I'm saying here. Yeah, seed oils, therefore lubricating engines, actually. They seem to still believe in the myth that saturated fats, like real butter and the fats that you find in meat, for instance, is dangerous and that it will lead to heart issues. Well, that's not true. And that's like saying if you eat fat, you get fat. you know, it's as silly as saying that. So the idea here behind this diet is, it's it sounds great because they claim to have found a diet that is coincidentally, I hope that was the right word, great for the human body and also great for the environment. So yeah, it's all good. But I when in a way, I wish that was true. I wish that was true. So I'm not a climate scientist. I know that roaming cattle seems to be good for the environment. But again, I'm not a climate scientist, but I do know nutrition. So I will stick to the nutrition part here, okay? But I will say that there's a difference between trying to find a diet that is kind to the environment, or so they say. And they might find a way for people to eat so that human existence has less impact on the environment. That's fine. And we can discuss that all day long, but let's assume that they found a diet that if we all ate like that, it would have less impact on the environment. Great. The problem is that they assume or also try to convince people that that same diet is also optimal for the human body. But those two things are completely different. They claim that this diet, which, by the way, they don't say anything that about ultra processed foods, because I think they realize that eating plant foods, for most people, it's like you're going to eat a lot of ultra processed foods. That's just the reality. Most people, they can't afford to eat only vegetables, like proper vegetables, uh, grains and stuff like that. They need you. You need a certain amount of calories, and if you're going to get that through plant foods only, long term, you're going to have to eat a huge volume of food every day. Okay. So in order to get enough calories, you're going to have to eat ultra processed foods, which I think we can just say without having to go into details on that now, that that's not good for you. Okay. Now, we can argue that vegetables are good for you, and I do believe some vegetables in moderation is good for you, if you individually tolerate them. But I have a problem with lots of vegetables, but you might find it easier to digest vegetables. So I'm not against eating vegetables. Fruit, by the way, fruit is a little bit problematic. It, in my opinion, fruits should be seen as, a treat. You know, none of the fruits that we have in the stores today are natural, so it should be seen as a treat, a healthier alternative than some kind of dessert. Have an orange instead of that ultra processed dessert after dinner, for instance. Now, so if you're going to eat mainly grains, seed oils, and vegetables, you're going to get sick. That combination is highly inflammatory for your complete system. They are also limiting to almost a minimum, like there's almost nothing here of meats and fish and dairy. Now, dairy is something, but I will say I have a problem with dairy. Lots of people have a problem with dairy. I do believe that it's very nutritious, but it's not for everyone. And basically, it's the breast milk for baby cows, right? So so you could say that, let's not consume dairy because so many people have a problem with it. Okay, but some people are okay with dairy. But when it comes to meat and fish, we do know that if you are vegan, you will have to supplement with, I have a list here. Let's see. Yeah, I can't find the list, but I know it by heart. B12, iron, often magnesium as well as actually calcium. You will also B2, I believe. You will be lacking that, and when you are lacking that, it affects the nervous system. And what seems to happen is not only are you getting inflammations much more easily, but also you seem to we seem to need these things as well as all the amino acids from that you will not find in a plant-based diet. You need all the amino acids to avoid mental illnesses and things like depression. So yeah, by the way, fermentation should be avoided, by the way. It really should be avoided. I can get into details on that. Recent research has shown that fermentation might be good for your your guts short term, but it's actually inflammatory. Now, so if you don't eat meat and you don't eat fish, or you eat very little, your body will constantly have to use a lot of energy to split up the proteins, or should I say, the amino acids found in the grains, and make all the non-essential. And by the way, the non-essential amino acids, and they are essential, you need them. But what it means is that if it's non-essential, it means that the body can make them out of other amino acids, right? But you have to make them. And that's a problem. So we do see, especially depression is much higher among vegans. Now, you won't probably notice that after half a year or maybe 1 year on a vegan diet, but eventually people do see what it does to the human body. We are not meant to live on a plant-based diet. We have also statistics on the longevity of the populations, and the nations where people get very old are also typically the nations where they eat a lot of meat. The nations with high morbidity and a high degree of mental illness, like India, is also nations with a very low meat consumption. So there is solid science contradicting what the globalists behind the Eat Planetary diet are saying. So it's a dangerous diet. If someone I cared about told me that I'm going on the Eat Planetary diet now, I would say, please don't. Please don't. Oh yeah, eggs. Now, you shouldn't eat eggs. That's what they're saying. Which is kind of, they are being criticized for using outdated science, which is not really good science, right? There are still people out there who believe that eggs are not good for you. And it will, if you eat lots of eggs, you will get a heart attack. And I don't know what to say to those people, but eggs it's a superfood, right? And they actually contain all of the nutrients and the micronutrients without any anti-nutrients like those that you will find in plants. The only thing they don't have is vitamin C. Eggs, that is. And when they say you shouldn't eat eggs, it's like, you know that they are not, this diet, the Eat Planetary diet, is not based on proper science. This is not a healthy diet. Eggs are superfood. It really is. So I don't know what to say. You might want to consider this live stream as a warning. And listen, I personally, as I said, I'm not a climate scientist, but personally, I do not believe that roaming cattle is a danger to the environment. I do not believe that. However, I do not like the idea and the fact that animals are getting killed for me to have meat on the table. I do not like that fact. I will be honest about that. Okay. But I also realize that nature is brutal. And we have killed animals and eaten them since the dawn of time. If you look at the human skull, um, you can see that we are a primate, and what happened to us was that um, our brains needed more volume, so our jaws are smaller than they used to be back in when we, in pre Homo sapiens times, right? Because of that evolution, we needed bigger brains, and that kind of affected our jaws and stuff like that. And we all know that in order for women to be able to give birth to babies, they are born before they are developed enough to care for themselves. And it's human beings are very special in the sense that we don't we depend completely on our parents until we're, I guess, in nature you wouldn't be able to fend for yourself until you're, I don't know, 12, 13 years old. And in order for a human brain and a human body to develop properly, you need animal fats. And these people, they might try to deny that, but that's a fact. You know, your brain needs animal fats. It's that simple. Evolution has made it that way. Um, so I wish it was not like that, because I love animals. I really do. And I kind of wish that human beings were not predators, but we are. Just look at my eyes. They're right here in front, right? They're not on the sides, which kind of gives it away what we are. So yeah, you can live without it. Yeah, I agree. You can live without animal fats, but for how long? And how much mental illness will you have to deal with? You know. So I I guess I have a mind that is kind of looking for these conspiracies. And the conspiracy theory here is that big pharma wants people to eat like this, because then they will have to take antidepressants and other um, sorts of medications in order to deal with the depression that this diet will lead to. So it's follow the money as always. Um, yeah. When it comes to milk, by the way, it's misunderstood, right? Uh, most people actually have a problem with what's it called? Um, yeah, I'll say it in another way, because I forgot the word. But most people would be okay, apparently, with raw milk, right? The problem with raw milk, at least here in Norway, is that, well, it's illegal. You can't buy it. um, but raw milk has components in it that makes it much easier to digest. And I have never had raw milk. Now, I don't have any need to drink milk. I don't really like it, but it seems that raw milk, and I can't remember these. Uh, I can't remember the name of these components, but it's those are destroyed and during the process. What do you call it? Pasteurized. Yeah, pasteurized. Yes. So that process makes the milk cleaner in a way, but it also makes it very difficult to digest. The problem with raw milk is that I would not accept raw milk to drink raw milk if I didn't see the cow. It needs to be very clean, sanitized, and so on. So that's the problem. Also, it's in Norway and many other countries. It's you can't sell it or buy it. It's illegal. So that's the issue. So um, um, yeah, if you have a farm and you, I mean, then of course you can have raw milk because you know your cows, you know. But for most people, that's not. Uh, they can't get raw milk. So yeah. Now uh, let's see here. So this diet is of course being criticized. So uh, yeah, it seems to be a case of bad science, at least in the sense that the people who funded this research, they really wanted this plant-based diet to come out of the research, out of the labs, as optimal for human health. So there's a huge bias here, and it's easy to see. It contradicts proper science, and it's based largely on old science. Now, they are saying things that, seed oils are healthier than saturated fats. That is not true. There are people out there, and many doctors, I believe, it's quite common still that just to believe that saturated fats are dangerous. You should instead use a lot of seed oils. And I do these people, these doctors, do they need to die before? I mean, the new generation of doctors, I hope, are not that outdated. It's not true. It's a lie. You know. Uh, to the guys watching here, no, also, by the way, no, not only the guys, the girls as well, because I'll talk a little bit about testosterone, right? If you don't have cholesterol, or if you lack cholesterol, you can't really build testosterone effectively. How would you do that? And even though women, of course, have much less testosterone, it's very important that you have a healthy testosterone level. And men, of course, have a much higher testosterone level. And as you age, both men and women, it tends to go down a little bit, um, but not necessarily. If you keep a healthy diet, I'm not going to say balanced, because balanced, does that mean that you will now eat a lot of foods that you can't tolerate? No, you need to eat healthy fats, that's saturated fats, right. And eggs also wonderful to build up a healthy level of testosterone and other essential hormones. We have seen, and here's my point, we have seen a huge and dangerous drop in testosterone among young people during the last few decades. And people are scratching their heads, wondering why. Um, I'll use myself as an example. I have quite a high testosterone level, and it helps to lift heavy weights. But much more important is eating a good diet with healthy fats. And I think that maybe one main reason for why young people are seeing this drop in testosterone might be their diet. Yeah, the plastics and all of that in the environment, of course, that seems to have an impact as well. And there are many other factors probably, but if you eat a diet with lots of junk food, um, ultra processed foods, um, sodas with lots of sugars, you're probably going to see a drop in your testosterone. Now, also, they are dependent on their smartphones, and so the screen addiction is also probably a huge issue there, which affects sleep. And when you don't sleep well, it does affect your testosterone. So, yeah, and by the way, foods in the USA and Canada. Well, I don't know about Canada, but I know about the USA is highly toxic compared to foods in Europe because of the laws. Um, Freedom um, and all of that means that these companies have the freedom to put all sorts of colors and dyes and things that are not foods into the food, which is not good. Um, so if you eat a burger in McDonald's burger in Norway, that's not necessarily unhealthy. Well, it's not unhealthy if you stay away from the chips, potato chips, because the it's straight from the farmer. It's quite healthy actually, except the bun. Yeah. So what are we left with? We're left with the the meat and the tomato and some salad. Yeah. So yeah. Okay. Yeah, Angela says we're good quality food in the US, but you're going to have to pay extra for it. Yes, I realize that. Which is also, I guess, why uh, rich people seem to have better health than poor people. You know, so this diet is a problem, and what can I say? It's it's a huge problem. Okay, I'll get to the chat now. Um, yeah. Some people say the only diet that helps with their autoimmune disease is the carnivore diet. Yes. Yeah, that's true. If you have an autoimmune disease, if you have digestive problems, I would also add to that, if you suffer from depression and anxiety, please, please try that carnivore diet. I'm not saying you will eat only steak and eggs for the rest of your life, but please try the carnivore diet. Do it for a month and see what happens. Um, so, um, let's see. Okay. Yeah, Red Wolf Moon, if depends on activity. If you're doing lots of cardio, we'll need to bump up the carbs while still keeping protein high. Yeah, yes, of course. Of course. If you go running every day, you need more carbs, of course. Unless you want to lose weight. So the problem is, and what I'm seeing, what I'm observing is, when I go to social events where people are eating, and I try to avoid that because I'm not very sociable. But when I do that, my God, can I use that expression as a non Christian? People shuffle carbs into their mouth as if they just finished running a marathon and they're going to run a new marathon in a couple of hours or the next day. The amount of carbs people are eating is insane. And for me, I can't say that I'm on the carnivore diet because I add carbs to my diet. And I do that because I don't want to lose weight. I need to keep my weight up. And that's what carbs are for. And if you want to reduce your body fat level and your weight in general, skip the carbs. We actually need very little carbs in order to function. Um, if you're not, well, let's face it, most people these days are sedentary. They don't move much. Even if you go to the gym, that doesn't really count as moving much. And you don't need many carbs per day for most people. I'm not talking about kids, by the way, not talking about children. Children should be very active. They should be running around and playing, and I would not put a child on a carnivore diet. Having said that, I think it's very healthy for kids to have lots of meats and fish in their diet, and eggs. Yes, Ansela, absolutely. You're saying people eat low nutrition, high volume food, then are hungry again an hour later because there's no nutrition in the food. Absolutely. Um, uh, let's see. Yeah, when it comes to fish, by the way, there is a problem because of pollution. So you need to look into that. It varies a little bit from species to species and which area the fish is from. Um, Farmed fish should be avoided. Like Norwegian salmon is, I don't count that as food, it's pure poison. Um, it's a big shame, by the way. So, Uh, yeah, I've had chocolate in the USA. Yeah, it did not taste very good. It tasted of maybe not sick, but it was like it tasted of pure sugar. I remember that. Um, yeah, we have a big problem with salmon in Norway. We have these greedy salmon multi-millionaires. Um, they don't care, and they treat the salmon in a very cruel way. Lots of them get diseases and they die. They sink to the bottom of the ocean. They have them in these. Maybe they don't. Uh, they rot. Like so there's this under these ocean pens. Is that what you call them? When you see the ocean there, the ocean floor, it's like a stinking, horrible wasteland. And some salmon escape and they bring diseases with them, which is devastating to the other fish, salmon populations. Yeah, yeah, the net pens. Yeah, and if I could decide, it should be illegal to do that. It should be illegal. They're full of antibiotics and actually, I don't know for sure if they use antibiotics, but they use all sorts of because they're criticized so about that. So maybe they have found another way to deal with the stuff, but it's highly toxic. Norwegian salmon. Do not eat Norwegian salmon. uh, yes. Okay. So basically, that's the eat planetary diet. Let's see here. The criticism also is about, you know, micronutrient deficiencies and the idea that one single diet is the right diet for everyone is ridiculous. I'm not expecting you to eat like me, and I should not eat like you because we are different. Um, so it says here, um, yeah, I forgot to mention zinc and vitamin A. So you will be lacking that if you follow this diet. And it's also criticized for using outdated concepts. I did mention the unsaturated versus saturated fats thing. And it's really sad because you know what? I will say this. I don't like to say it, but I will say this. Someone very close to me that I care deeply about was subjected to, as a young person, this scare mongering about the planet being on fire and that we should all not eat meats and we should all be vegans to save the planet. And that led to a period of, what do you call it? when especially young girls, they don't eat, and they get very skinny. Anorexia, that led to borderline anorexia. So fuck those people who push that agenda. Who knows how many people out there are suffering from eating disorders because of these scaremongers. You know. Now you may not want to listen to me. I'm just some guy on the internet, but I can tell you that as a powerlifter, I have up through the years I've received help with my diet, which is quite common when you are competing. Um, the the battle is fought in the kitchen, not so much in the gym. Well, in the gym as well, but the food is very, very important. So I've spoken with many people and also other athletes about diet, and the conclusion is that you need a lot of meat, not just to have big muscles, but to avoid injury and to have a healthy mind. It's much more important, by the way, to have a healthy mind than big muscles. Carbs, what do you need carbs for? Well, basically, you need carbs to keep your weight up. That should tell everyone quite a lot. Most people, they don't want to keep their weight up. They want to lose some weight. Well, skip the carbs or reduce the carbs. So, yeah. Yeah, you didn't eat meat for 30 years. I can understand that. I can relate to that because farm animals are not treated well. They're not. And it breaks my heart. I have also tried to eat only plant foods many years ago now. I got sick within a week. I felt horrible. So when it comes to diet, it's not like we don't know how to eat and what to eat. We know that. We know that, and there might be variations, but the basis is you need a lot of protein, and by the way, much more protein than most people. Most people, most people, they eat less than 50 grams of protein per day. That's my guess. And you need more than 100. If you're a woman, 60 kilos woman, you need 100. I would say you need 100, at least 100 grams of protein per day. I can't translate it to ounces and pounds and stuff like that, but I'll use the European grams and all of that. So essentially, what I'm saying is that you need a lot of protein, much more, and you don't eat as much protein as you may think. And in order to get enough protein for a healthy mind and a healthy body, you can't just eat plant-based foods. I laugh when I don't laugh, but I'm sort of amused when I see vegans, and I don't have anything against vegans, but I do have something against people who are lying, and they are saying, "Ha ha ha." These people, the carnivores, they think I'm not getting enough protein. And then they show a picture on these memes of some beans. Yeah. you're not getting enough proteins by eating beans. What you are getting is a lot of plant toxins, and it will fuck up your system, and also it has a horrible side effect. 60 kilos is a big girl. No, no, it's not. Stealth mode. No, no. 60 kilos is, how much is that? Is that a 120 pounds? Something like that. Um, so, so it's like, have these people made the calculations concerning how much they need to eat in order to green-eyed lady, 60 kilos is 132.277 pounds. Thank you. Have they made the calculations? I will make the calculations right now. I can't remember exactly, but yeah. Beans ready to eat, boiled. I'll even translate this to, let's see here. And I'll be generous. I will be generous. You will need, for most people, you will need around 1.2 kilos of beans per day. Let's see. That's more than 2.5 pounds of beans per day. And I don't mean to be rude here, but can we say something about how ridiculous this is when these same people will often point at cows and say that cows burping and giving off gas, being gassy, is a problem to the environment. What happens if you eat more than 2.5 pounds of beans every day? I do not even want to think about that. Sorry. It's just the problem with a vegan diet is that you have to digest such a huge volume of food, and takes a toll on your system. I don't think it's good for you at all. you know. Now I try to buy meat every day for me and my dogs. Yeah, that's great. I also share when I eat meat and which I do every day. I share a little bit with my dogs. I tell them that they are very good at eating and begging for food. They are not the most. They don't know so many tricks except eating and begging for food. They are really good at that. Yeah, they have a talent for that. Yeah. Now, again, I have to say that I have nothing against vegans, and I wish that was how we were supposed to eat, because it would be much better for the animals. I wish that was the case, but it's not. It just isn't. Beans are the musical food. Yeah. But I mentioned beans because beans are usually used as an example when vegans talk about foods with lots of protein, and that's a joke. Um, so the most popular meat in Norway, um, maybe pork. I I don't have the numbers, but maybe pork. I would guess. Um, yeah, soy. Stay away from soy because it mimics estrogen. So it might be okay if you have soy sauce now and then, but it mimics estrogen in your body. um, yeah, Galadriel. Yes, you're saying exactly that's how I feel too. You're saying I hate that I have to eat animals, but I feel horrible when I don't. Yeah, me too. Many years ago, as I said, I tried to go vegan and I lasted not even a week. And I remember I was driving past a gas station and they had this poster with a burger on it. And I was like, I couldn't drive past. I had to have that burger. And that was so wonderful. And I like red meat so much that I think about it every day. I don't think about carrots like that, you know. Um, yeah. Oh God, you're saying I was a vegetarian for 10 years as an emotional response to the mistreatment of farm animals. I wrecked myself. You know what? I fully sympathized, and it's an ethical problem, um, because it seems that if we are to be fully ethical, we will also be unhealthy. Yeah. Um, yeah, a lot of bacon is actually bad for us, and I'm sorry to say that, but if you look at what they inject into the bacon, um, it's full of nitrates and stuff like that. It's not really good for us. But bacon without all of that nonsense in it is good. Um, yeah. So let's see here. There was one other thing I wanted to say. Yeah, it's the problem of trying to create a universal human diet. Um, that does not take into account genetic differences. So there will probably be a genetic difference between, say, someone from China and someone from Sweden when it comes to how we digest food, and maybe some ethnic groups need more of this and less of that, and so on. And it's even, of course, so that you need to cater the diet to the individual. Any personal trainer worth his or her money will know this, and any nutritionist will know this. You have to adjust the diet to the individual and also to illnesses and diseases and stuff like that. And let's face it, if you're if you're if you're 50 years plus, very often you will have some kind of illness, disease, injury, whatever, and you should adjust your diet to be able to deal with that in the best possible way. Yeah. So again, when they say everyone should eat like this, that in itself is where we could stop. We could just stop right there and say that this is obviously bad science or unscientific. Yeah. If I had to suggest a diet that everyone can tolerate, I would say it's called actually the lion diet. So that's only red meat. Only red meat. And doctor actually said this to me because I used to have a lot of issues with digestion, and if you eat only red meat, it's your body. What happens is that there is nothing in it that your body can react to in a negative way. Now, there might be cases out there where that's different, but in 99.99% of people or something like that, if you eat only red meat, you will not have any allergic reaction. You will not have anything in your body being more inflamed. It will be less inflamed. That's the lion diet. That's just red meat. Now, very few people can just keep eating only red meat. That's why it's usually used as a way to calm the system, to calm everything down. So if you eat only red meat for a month, most likely your inflammatory responses will calm down, and many people have constant inflammatory responses to the food that they eat. Very often you also actually have an inflamed brain, which is actually a thing. It happened to me, and no, there is no evidence that eating only red meat can lead to gout. No. Yeah, I know Jordan Peterson and the daughter, they are on the red meat diet, and it helped her a lot. It solved her very serious problems. Yeah. So this is, again, this is something. If you have, now I'm not a doctor. I hate to say this. I'm going to say I'm not a doctor, so don't take my advice. But also, if you go to a doctor has actually less education in nutrition than I have. That's crazy. A doctor, unless it's someone who's specialized in nutrition. I looked into it. It's shocking. They have like 1 day or something like that in total of nutrition. So let's see here. Yeah, so if I were to recommend one diet for everyone, it would be the lion diet, only red meat for a period of time. And most people, they think that how they feel now is the norm. That's how it's supposed to be, but it's very often it's not. You don't know, because you've always been eating things that we're not supposed to eat. Yeah, I know. Yeah, vegan people who run marathons and give birth to healthy babies. Yes, and that's wonderful. But for how long? For how long? How much do they have to supplement? How much do you know about their mental health? Are they on antidepressants? What's going on there? You don't know. Um, will I consider purchasing lab-grown meat if I had access to the facilities and could observe the production process? Um, if I could observe the production process and say no if I did not like how it's made, then yes. But from what I know now is that first of all, I will not be able to observe the production process, and also how it's made is I'm not going to eat it. Not going to. So, but growing meat like that is actually in itself, the technology is not necessarily something that would produce unhealthy food. The problem is, of course, that we can't trust these people. So the answer is no. Um, yeah, you're a doctor. Okay. Yeah, depends on your blood type. Okay. I don't think so. There is certain common traits in our species, and yeah. But of course, I do understand that I'm not really the person that my message here will not really reach many people, and the Eat Planetary diet will reach many people. So yeah. Okay, when it comes to micronutrients, that is interesting. I do find that interesting because I went carnivore, and I'm still avoiding fiber and vegetables, because fiber seems to, again, sorry that I have to be very detailed here, but it seems to, if I eat fiber, it seems to, I get constipated. Okay. So, and I don't want that. I can't tolerate some porridge if I have a lot of real butter in it. Then it seems to be okay, and that's good fuel for a heavy, long workout. So when I went for a long, long time, I went completely without fiber, no vegetables, lots of meat, and I tested the blood test, the vitamin. Am I lacking vitamins and minerals and stuff like that? They take a blood test, and everything was fine. Everything was fine. I did it again a year later. Everything was fine. So that it goes to show that, and I've had deficiencies before, and not serious deficiencies, but I had to take some supplements, vitamin supplements, and then I had deficiencies. And the reason is very simple. It's the fiber, because if you have a diet with a lot of fiber, fiber is an anti-nutrient. It acts, or rather, to be more correct, it acts as an anti-nutrient. It makes it more difficult for the nutrients to enter your to it. How should I explain it without being disgusting? It The fiber flushes the stuff through the system. Yeah, before you have digested it properly. Yeah, and yeah, and it binds to stuff as well. So this is one of the reasons why many people, they lack this and that vitamin, they have a deficiency in this and that, because of all the fiber they are digesting. So something to think about there. Some people, I think, need fiber. No, I'll take that back. If you eat a proper human diet, you don't need fiber. But if you eat plant-based foods, well, usually that comes with fiber. But if you're fully carnivore, you will not need fiber at all. Yeah. Richie says, I have problems digesting fruits and vegetables. Yeah, me too. Yeah, it's quite common, actually. Yeah, I eat some rice occasionally. Occasionally. Yeah. Yeah, pasta. Yeah, that's a starch which turns into sugar in your body. Well, they call pasta string sugar. Now, I'm not against sugar. It has its uses. For me, I find it very difficult to have the energy for a long workout on only meats. I feel a little bit flat if I try that. But this is a not coffee. It's a Norwegian type of Christmas toddy without there is no alcohol in it, and it has sugar, of course. You know, so is that true? Galadriel, is that true? 2021 article about lab-grown meat. They're hoping to get celebrities like James Franco, Ellen DeGeneres, Jennifer Lawrence, Kanye West to donate tissue samples that will eventually become salami. Who wants a Ellen DeGeneres salami? I don't. Yeah. I if YouTube exists in a couple of years from now, if it's not just AI, I can see YouTubers getting sponsored to promote lab grown meat, and it's like, do you want to have my salami? Do you want to eat my salami? No jokes, please. I donated a sample to this company, so you can now order my salami. Yeah. So yeah, I can see that stranger things have happened. Yeah, Bill Gates salami. You want to have Bill Gates salami? Um, hmm. Well, I'm sure that Bill Gates would like to give you his salami, but okay, I'll stop right there. I said no jokes, so I better not joke about it. Um, yeah, yeah. You tried to quit coffee. Yeah, it's hard. Yeah, well, they say that. Yeah, that's what I hear. It's hard. Um, Caffeine is a plant toxin, actually. It's produced by these plants, some plants, to avoid insects eating them. Um, yeah. So, okay. Any questions? Any jokes? Any salami jokes? Um, yeah, Carola says try to get rid of coffee by mixing it with caffeine free until you are totally out of caffeine. That's good advice. Peter, I'm okay. How are you? I can guarantee you there will be no Bjorn salami. No. Yeah. Um, no, but this is I think that it's easy to see where they are trying to steer us. They there is not so much money in the meat industry, much more money in the plant-based foods industry, and that is connected to big pharma, of course. And it's really evil, when you think about it. And I'm convinced that there are people talking behind closed doors about this, that this diet will lead to increased depression, and that will again lead to increased medication. Now, sometimes people need medication for depression, but getting people on a diet that will increase the likelihood of getting depressed is evil. Um, and autoimmune diseases that now a grain-based diet is horrible when it comes to autoimmune diseases. So, yeah, I find it very provoking. Um, Now, of course, will they try to get us to eat insects? Will they try to get us to eat lab grown meat? Um, I don't know. We will see. I can guarantee you that I will not eat insects unless I'm in the wilderness with no means of contacting civilization, with no means of hunting or fishing, starving, almost dying from starvation. Unless I'm in that situation, I will not eat insects. I will only eat insects if it's to avoid dying in the wild, right? And we're talking going days upon days without any food. That's when I would consider eating insects, but um, no. So the answer is no. And when it comes to lab grown meat, honestly, I won't trust these people, and I don't trust them. I will never trust them, and I am not going to have lab-grown meat. Um, yeah. Um, no, I haven't. Carola, have you the carbon footprint allowance hints in food in the UK? Hints, or is it now implemented already? Anyone knows? Are there carbon footprint um, measurements in the UK now? Is that already happening? I think the UK might be first, but I haven't heard. I don't think it's there yet. But of course, they are implementing they have the system in place now. Um, uh, yeah, they need to implement the digital ID, and that needs to be fully implemented before they can do that. And then there will be a points system, carbon footprint points system. Yeah, we all see that coming. So, Peter is asking, is fish a big part of your diet? No, it's actually not. Uh, Simply because I don't really like it. But we should eat fish, of course. Yeah. They are okay. They are preparing the carbon footprint thing in the UK. Yeah, I think within a couple of years it will be in place. Insects are actually toxic for humans. Yeah, that's what I heard too. It's first of all, they are full of parasites. The other thing is that the shell contains a chemical. I can't remember the name, but it's toxic to humans. Uh, yeah, yeah, and you hear them saying, "Well, the only reason why we don't eat insects is cultural. It's just a cultural thing." No, no. People eat insects because they have to, don't not because they want to. And then they point at some tribe in the Amazon, and they are saying, "Oh, they are go hunting for these larvas, and they like the larvas. They like to eat them." Well, that is a cultural thing, right? Because they've become accustomed to eat them. They do not, if you live in the jungle in the Amazon Delta, in the jungle there, you do not actually live in a state of calorie surplus. You don't. People might think that, oh, food everywhere. No, not at all. I've never been in a, yes, I have been in a jungle actually, but not that jungle. So it's the forest floor in a jungle is not a place of abundance. So, yeah. Yeah, in the Amazon, you are food too. Yeah, yeah. Um, um, the Viking diet, it was very, very seasonal. So they would they got a lot of their protein from the sea because it's easier to go fishing than to go hunting. They added with some protein from the farm animals, and they did go hunting, of course, but it was a good mix of things that they could get hold of. They also ate grains, but grains back then were different from the grains we have now. And beer in the medieval age was often referred to as liquid bread. So that was also a source of calories, actually. Um, yeah. Vikings deal with scurvy. I have never heard about any scurvy, Viking age scurvy. I haven't come across that in the literature at all. Yeah, and also they had some vegetables. They would grow some vegetables, but again, the vegetables back then did not look like the vegetables now. So an onion now and an onion 1,000 years ago would be you could recognize that it was an onion, but what yeah, through cultivation they have made all the vegetables and the fruits much more bigger and with less of these easier to eat, because if you find food out in the woods, it's like plant food out in the woods, it's difficult to eat because it's full of these strings and lots of this fiber that you can't even chew through. Except the exception is, of course, the berries. Yeah. One example is cucumbers. So I actually this year grew cucumbers that are supposed to look more like the original cucumbers. Did you know they had spikes a long time ago? These big, long cucumbers, again, no jokes, are it's a cultivated version. Yeah. Same with bananas. Yeah. Um, yes. Okay. Yeah, this was an early live stream. So hope you appreciate that. Early live stream because I couldn't sleep. It seems to be a thing when I have a heavy deadlift session in the afternoon, the day before. I wake up early. I don't know why. Yeah. Do you see a theme here? Salami, cucumbers, bananas. Well, what could it be? Yeah. Okay. Now, I think that's all for now. We have been talking for a while. I hope you appreciate that. It could be adrenaline. Maybe. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we'll talk soon. Okay. Have a nice rest of the evening or morning, day, whatever. Okay. Bye bye.